Hey guys, I'm Prince Rich with Rich Technology Group, and in this video, what we're going to talk about is your business moving? Here are the top 5 reasons you should not wait till the last minute to contact a service provider or to get your phone or internet service set up for your new office. We're going to go over the reasons why you need to think fast. Uh, the reason I wanted to do this video is because our inside sales team, when we call people, we deal with a lot of businesses that are relocating nationwide. And we've heard some funny things. I mean, we've had people that, one of my saleswomen's or one of my sales guys will get on the phone and, they'll call me back and they'll say, "Hey, Prince, I've got an in of somebody that needs phone or internet service. Their business is moving." And then the next question that I ask is, what is their target date? When exactly do they think that they're moving? And then my salesperson will say back, well, they think they're moving in approximately 2 months, and they told me to call back in about like 6 or 7 weeks. Bad move, and we're going to talk about why you should avoid that and why this should be one of the first things that you start researching before you actually make your move. Before I get into this, we recommend that you literally start looking at phone and internet service options or what's available, especially if you're moving to another zip code, and we'll get into that. We recommend that you start looking at that stuff no less than 60 days in. In a perfect world, if you've got the time and you're at least willing to entertain quotes from somebody, from us or from the carrier or whichever you choose, or you're willing to just kind of know what's on the option on the table so that you can put that aside with everything else that you've got planned for the move. Because we understand a move, you've got a million other things you got to deal with. But as long as you as long as you do that early, we recommend that you try to stick around like 90 days. Somewhere between 60 to 90 days before your actual move, you need to have a general idea of exactly what's going to be available in your area and what you think you're going to be going with, especially for internet. And we're going to get into that because there's some gotchas. So let's get started. Number one, construction delays. This is a rare one, but well, I guess it depends on area and it depends on where you are. But construction delays, I'll give you an example. We had a customer out in Texas, good customer of ours that's an insurance company, and luckily they weren't moving; they were already in a building, so they already had internet. They were interested in Suddenlink. They had been looking for Suddenlink broadband for probably, I would say probably close to 2 to 3 years. They had been trying to get it. They at the time currently had consolidated internet, which I believe is DSL. We represent Consolidated as well, but I've never sold it before. I've never had anybody contact me looking specifically for Consolidated in the areas where they are. But this person particularly had Consolidated, and it was DSL, and they weren't very happy with the speeds and whatnot because they were only able to get DSL. They weren't able to get broadband or fiber or anything higher at a reasonable price for reasonable speeds. So they contacted us. They found us online through Google, and they contacted us, and they basically said, they contacted us looking actually for a phone system. They specifically were looking for a Vonage business phone system. We quoted them on that. They were really happy with the numbers, happy with the options, with the free phone promotion, all that stuff. But I asked the client, I said, wait a minute, what is your internet at your office? Because while I'd love to sell you this Vonage business phone system and get you hooked up, we love Vonage, I don't want to set you up for a disaster because I know that if you put Vonage or any hosted phone system for that matter, Jive, Star2Star, whatever you want to call it, Ring Central, if you put any of those on a really slow internet connection, you're going to have problems. You're going to have problems, and you're going to think that it's the phone system, but it's not the phone system. It's quite frankly, you just have crappy, slow internet. So I asked him, what do you have? He told me it's not that great. It's Consolidated. It's DSL. It's not very fast. And I just stopped him right there and I said, look, I would love to hook you up with Vonage, but I don't want to set you up for a wreck. Let's just put this Vonage quote to the wayside. It's not going anywhere. The phone promotion is still active as far as we know right now. Let's tackle the internet and see what we got. So we found out that Suddenlink was in that zip code, but I found out from the client that he had been trying to get Suddenlink for the past almost 3 years. And they kept saying, no, you need to pay $15,000 for construction, $10,000 here, $15,000 there, and construction delay this, construction delay that. Luckily, one of the other pros of working with us is we have higher ups at some of these companies, and we can get blocks. And sometimes, we can get mountains moved for some customers, depending on the customer and depending on what they're trying to do. So I told the customer, you know what, I can't make you any promises, but we've done this before. Let me just talk to Suddenlink and see what the deal is here, why they can't get service there. Spoke with Suddenlink, found out that they, required a $15,000 deposit from the client to be able to put service there. Luckily, the client was large enough because they owned a building that had multiple other tenants that also really wanted better internet. We were able to convince Suddenlink, and we were very gracious for this. We were able to convince Suddenlink to waive the $15,000 charge for construction for that building because they saw that there was other business potential in the complex. There was multiple businesses in there that were sharing space. The catch, and this brings us to point number one, we had to wait 6 months for Suddenlink to do the construction. This is not because these companies are necessarily slow or because they don't care or they don't want the business. A lot of it is just a bunch of legal bureaucratic stuff. When I talked to my higher ups at Suddenlink Communications, they told me point blank, they said, look, we would get it done tomorrow. We want the business if we could, but we have to actually submit a request to Suddenlink legal team for permits, and then legal team has to actually go to the county or to whatever province that this company is in, the city, and they have to actually put in a request for the permits to go out and actually do this construction, because this stuff requires trenching machines, bulldozers, all that kind of stuff, depending on where your office is and what you need. So the bottom line is, without going into any more details, I just wanted to give you guys an example of how those play out. If you run into a construction delay, I can't tell you how long it's going to take right off the cuff. I'd have to talk to somebody at the carrier for you, but we have seen them usually no less than 30, 45 days. We've seen construction delays with Comcast. We've worked with many of those nationwide, especially in Virginia, for some companies that are in our home state out of Virginia. And I've usually seen Comcast construction blocks for them to do their process and get their permits and actually get their construction team out to do whatever needs to be done to dig the hole so that they can actually lay their wire to your suite or to your complex. We usually see that on an average of 45 to 60 days. The reason I bring this up, if one of our associates talks to you and you say, hey, or if I talk to you, you call me directly and you say, hey, I'm moving. And I say, we need to look at what internet options you're going to be looking at there. And you say, oh, no, it's no big deal. We're not moving for another 45 days. You see where I'm headed with this? That's something that you don't want to wait on. So on to point number two, number porting. Number porting is a quick one that we'll cover here, but it has some consequences as well. Number porting, depending on the carrier, usually takes anywhere from 10 business days to 6 weeks. I've even seen number porting take 3 months. There really is nothing that you can do to speed up whatever the carrier that we decide to go with you. It's all over the place. I've seen some, like Vonage Business, for example, I've seen their number porting take anywhere from, I've seen it take as fast as 48 hours to 2 weeks. Star to Star and Ring Central, I've seen it take as long as 14 business days to a month and a half, 2 months if there's complications, with the losing carrier, as we call it, the carrier that's losing the number to port it over to the new carrier that the customer has chosen. So the short of it is, with number porting, you really just don't know. How can you fix that? You can get with somebody like us, or get with whoever it is that you may have already decided to choose. You need to get with them like yesterday so that you can find out and be informed, okay, this is what they've told me how long it's going to take approximately for my number to port. That way you're not finding out the last minute. Let's say that right now that you've got a month until your move and you wait till week 3 to call into the carrier. And then the carrier tells you, well, it's going to take about 4 weeks for your number to port. Well, if you hadn't known that a month ago, it wouldn't have been a huge big deal. You may have been in your office and only lacked maybe like less than a week without your number. But now you're looking at being in your office and not having your number for possibly 2 to 3 weeks or maybe more if there's complications. So that's a big one, because obviously if you're moving, you want to take your phone numbers with you. Number 3 is a pretty simple one. You might miss out on current promotions. If you don't, if you're not the early bird, we'll just say the early bird, the one who's not the early bird, misses the promotion is what we're going to say for this. A lot of these carriers have some huge promotions. I'm going to give you an example of someone who thought early and they did get a promotion. We had a company, it's a construction company that specifically specializes in the construction of elevators in the construction industry. They do elevator installation and manufacturing. Well, I wouldn't say they manufacture the parts, but they do elevator installation, configuration, and maintenance for I would assume medium-sized to large commercial outfits and buildings and stuff like that. They contacted us not too long after they moved into a new office. So they had already moved, but they contacted us and they said that they wanted to look at getting Time Warner Spectrum. We contacted our folks that we work with at Time Warner Spectrum, and we were able to get them broadband. I believe it was 100 over. It was a 100 over 25. 100 download over 25 upload megabyte connection for business. The price wasn't bad. The price was, I want to say, the regular price for that was $99 per month with no contracts on a month to month for a 100 megabyte down with a 25 megabyte up. Not bad, right? But the month that they called us, and it was only for that month, for the remainder of 2017, the month that they called us, Time Warner had a promotion going on until the very end of that month. That was for $59.99 a month for that same 100 megabyte down, 25 megabyte up package that normally is $99 a month. You see where I'm headed with this? So a lot of times it's a really good move for you if you contact somebody like us just to see what's out there. Even if you're not moving for another like 30 days or if you're not moving for another like 3 months or another, 4 months, it's not going to kill you to call us and say, hey, Prince, we're going to be moving. It's a ways out. It's like 4 or 5 months from now. Can you at least let us know what's out there? Here's why. Sometimes I can get with some of these providers and I can get them, if you sign a contract, even though your activation date, we push your service activation date out until you're going to actually move in, which we can do sometimes with some of these carriers. They just want to know that you're going to make a commitment to the business. So for example, it's May right now. Let's say that you call me up and you say, hey, we're not moving until June 1. And then I say, you know what? Actually, let's say you say you're not moving until July 1, almost like 2 months from now. And I say, okay, let me get with the carrier. And then I talk to the carrier and the carrier says, hey, we've normally this package that they want with the cable TV and this and that, let's say they say normally this is $250 a month, but we have a promotion going on right now for people that sign a contract this month. They can get it for $179 a month versus $250 a month. And I say, well, my client isn't moving and doesn't need the service to be active until July, like July 1. And then they say, no problem. Let's have them go ahead and sign the contract, and we'll put something in writing that says the contract is signed this month so that they can take advantage of this much promotion, but the service will not actually activate and be installed until XYZ date in July. That is possible with many of these carriers. They just want to know that you're committing to their business, and a lot of them are willing to bend over backwards to get your business and give you stuff like free stuff and even promotions like what I just mentioned. So again, the early bird gets the promotion in this case. Number 4 is a pretty simple one, and it kind of plays off of point number 1 in regards to making sure that you avoid any delays of installation or construction if needed, so that you don't end up in an office that doesn't have phone or a phone system. Number 4 is you need to think fast and make sure that this is in your, we'll call it your to-do list of things that need to be done before you actually relocate and move your office. If you don't have phone or your phone system in the office and you run into major delays, you can't train your staff. You can't test your computers and your applications and things like that. So that's one reason why you really need to make sure that that stuff is in line and going to guaranteed, short of any major unforeseens, guaranteed be in your office when the time comes, because you can't even train your staff on a new phone system or on your applications and stuff if you don't have phone and internet in your office. That's pretty obvious. Number 5 is pretty simple, because you've got better things to do. When you're planning a move, I've worked with many of you nationwide, during your move, and I see the stress, the strain, and just the large to-do list you've got to deal with. employee downtime. You've got to deal with, furniture, new furniture for the office or existing furniture. You've got to deal with having your copier guys or whatever, your print copy guys come out to reinstall and ship your big machines and stuff like that and get those reconnected up. You've got to deal with getting your computers reinitialized and all that. You've got to deal with a new network, possibly training the staff on the new network and possible new applications that you've upgraded to. You've got better things to do than deal with companies like Comcast, Verizon, Cox Communications, Suddenlink, and all those companies and having to deal with their paperwork and deal with their processes and all that stuff while you're in the midst of the headache and the whirlwind of a move. It's really simple. You've just got better things to do than having to deal with something as technologically complex as that, as a last minute thing that just falls in your lap while you're moving into a new office. So, again, in summary, what do you do to make this an easier process for yourself? Easy. Call us and let us completely take it off your plate. You're moving. You have other things to deal with other than calling a bunch of 1-800 numbers, sitting on hold, and trying to figure out of 100 different carriers, phone system providers, internet providers, DSL providers, broadband providers, who's even in your area to begin with where you're moving to and who's better and who's got what promotions going on and this and that. We will do that for you at no cost so that you can work on what's important at that specific time in your business's growth, your move. So again, I'm Prince Rich with Rich Technology Group. Thanks for watching this video. And if any of you that are watching this video are planning a move, even if it's a year out, I don't even care. Drop me a line, shoot me an email, hit me up on the phone, and let me know what I can do to help you out.